Hello, good morning everybody. It's a Friday morning and I'm filming a new video for this channel. It's my weekly wrap-up, the check-in, the mishmash, whatever you might call it, and I have to apologize that I don't post regularly stuff on this channel like every Sunday, Sunday reads, or it doesn't happen like that right at the moment because I have the feeling today on Friday morning that I have to tell you something. So I can do my weekly wrap-up for you because I read quite a lot of books and I'm reading quite a lot of books. I don't know how this happened. I'm just in the opposite of a reading slum. I'm in a reading jam or a reading streak, on a reading streak, whatever you might call it. And this is my alarm clock. So I have read quite a lot of books. I finished 3 books and I've started 3 books and I want to talk about them. So let's do this today. The first book that I finished is on the long list of the Women's Prize. I was reading that last week. I didn't do a weekly check-in last week because there wasn't so much to tell you, but now there's a lot of things to tell you. And so I start with Trespasses by Louise, which is longlisted for the Women's Prize. I think the Women's Prize comes with its shortlist in about 2 weeks' time, whereas the Booker comes in about a week. International Book and Translation comes in about a week. Louise Trespasses with this beautiful cover. I like it very much. Louise has written short stories before. She's an Irish author. She's from a Northern Irish author, a British author. She's from Belfast. And this book is about the Troubles, the time that people in Northern Ireland or in Ireland call the Troubles, quotation marks, which is a very much understatement of what really happened during that time. It starts in 2015 and then goes back to a time in the 1970s. I think it's precisely 1975. There's a woman, we meet a woman, her name is Cushla, and she is a young teacher living in Belfast, just a little bit outside Belfast. She sometimes works in a pub that her brother Eamon is having, and she meets this guy. She's Catholic, a Catholic girl, and that's very important. Obviously, religion is on the surface very important because it sort of symbolizes the conflict between the two sides. The Protestant side, which is more British influenced, and the Catholic side, which is more Irish influenced in this civil war in Northern Ireland. And Cushla is Catholic, and she meets this guy, this much older man. I think he's about 20 years older than she is probably, and but he's a very charismatic man. His name is Michael, and from the beginning there is a sort of attraction between Cushla and Michael, and they get together. They have a love story, a love affair. Michael is married, but what is really happening and what is concerning and what leads to catastrophic consequences is that Cushla is Catholic, Michael is Protestant, and in the end something very bad will happen. It's a very silent novel about this, leading up to this consequences, leading up to the catastrophe with which the book ends, without saying exactly what it is, not to spoil it for you. It was good. It got so much praise, and I think it's a little overpraised, at least for me as a reader, because I did not enjoy it that much as I expected it to enjoy after having read so much good things about Trespasses by Louise. I have now read 2 of the novels that are on the long list for the Women's Prize, and my number 1 is still Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver, a book that I also made a single review about. Then if you regularly watch this beautiful channel, you might have seen that I have made a video about the novels nominated for Best Novel for the so-called Edgars, the Edgar Allan Poe Award, that will be given on the 27th of April on Edgar Allan Poe's birthday in the United States. There are 5 novels on the shortlist, or they don't have a long list, they don't have a shortlist, they have nominees. And there are 5 novels nominated. I read already 2 of them, which were I DNF'd one, which was the Devil House by John Darnielle, and I read The Maid by Nita Prose. The third book that I now finished this week was another devil in the title, The Devil Takes You Home by Gabino Iglesias from the United States. This is a novel which sort of explores boundaries. It's not only a thriller, it's not only crime. It says here Deckare thriller on the Swedish, with a Swedish stamp on it from the library, but it is also a horror novel. It's surreal, a surreal novel. There are sort of surreal elements in this novel as well. This is about a young man living in California. His name is Mario. He's married. He has a little daughter, which is the pride of his life. And then his daughter is diagnosed and finally also dies. That's chapter 1, so no spoilers here. His daughter dies of leukemia, and his marriage falls apart due to that, which often happens in relationships when children vanish or die, that these marriages are very, very much under pressure. This marriage breaks apart as well because Mario becomes in a violent act against his wife, a single act, but then the wife leaves him, and understandably so. And so Mario has turned bad. He broke bad, and that's what it announces here on the cover. An extremely powerful and gripping thriller, the perfect read for fans of Breaking Bad and Stephen King, it says here. And this is what they mean, is that Mario becomes a bad guy. He was a hardworking father, a hardworking husband, but then he starts killing people. He's a hitman. He kills several people, and that's the big thing, which I won't tell you so much about in order not to spoil the novel. He gets into a heist that becomes part of a gang of 3 people who go to Mexico in order to get money from one of the cartels there and to steal the money. And this story leads to a lot of supernatural events. There's also extreme violence, a lot of blood in some of the scenes. And for me, as a classical crime reader and thriller reader, this was not so beautiful, not so good. I think people who love horror as well, they will probably have more from this book, The Devil Takes You Home by Gabino Iglesias, which is nominated for the Edgar Award. Then a novel that I enjoyed much more than I expected it to enjoy, and there's a trigger warning here also. There is a lot of violence in this novel. There's a lot of pornography, of sexual, very explicit scenes in the novel, which are very described in detail, and there's also a lot of drug use in this novel. So beware, if you have problems with that, then don't read this book. If you don't have problems, you should absolutely read this book. I'm talking about The Shards by Bret Easton Ellis, a book that I finished. It's about 600 pages long. I finished it in a little bit more than a week. The Shards is Bret Easton Ellis's first novel in 13 years. You probably have heard of the author, from the author. He became very famous already at a very young age by writing novels such as American Psycho and Less Than Zero. In this novel, which belongs to the genre of autofiction, we meet a guy called Bret Ellis, and he's going to Buckley High School in the early 1980s, and as the author did, and he's describing this year of 1980 to 1982, especially what happened in 1981, in the summer when everything changed for him. The lives of a lot of people, of friends who have been on this high school before their senior year, the lives of these people will change. We have obviously the eye narrator, Bret Ellis, who is discovering that he's gay, but having a girlfriend, Debbie Schaefer, in the beginning, but then he discovers that he's more attracted to men. Then we have Susan Reynolds, who is the homecoming queen, the most beautiful girl, which Bret is also attracted to. We have Tom, the boyfriend of Susan, which Bret is also attracted to, and then a couple of other people, but then there's a new guy, the new kid in class, which his name is Robert Mallory. He comes from, I think, Chicago, it is said in the beginning, and he will change everything, and Bret becomes really obsessed of him. And there's also a lot of violence in this book, a lot of sex, as I said, but it's an incredibly atmospheric, strong book, creating that atmosphere of rich kids in the 1980s, very rich kids, because Buckley High School, the school that Bret attended in the 1980s and Bret Easton Ellis attended in the 1980s. This school is still existing. It has a tuition fee of $55,000 per study year for the students, and that's also we have a very rich atmosphere in Los Angeles, in Western Los Angeles. I learned in Sherman Oaks and Century City and places like that. Very strong, atmospheric, and very tense and very dramatic, with a lot of foreboding that something bad is going to happen and things get worse and worse, and slowly built, but then fast-paced, very fast-paced at the end. So really a pleasure to read The Shards by Bret Easton Ellis for me. Then I have 3 books that I'm currently reading, that I started reading. 2 of them are in English and 1 of them is in German. I will talk about the first one, which is the 3rd on the list of the International Women, not the International Women's Prize, the 3rd on the long list of the Women's Prize. This is from London, England. It is Jacqueline Crooks and it is Fire Rush. I absolutely love the cover of this book. Fire Rush by Jacqueline Crooks, which is a debut novel. A pretty old author. I'm older than she is, so don't worry, Jacqueline, here, I'm sorry. But she's not so young as someone who gives her debut. She's not so young for someone who gives her debut with this novel. Jacqueline Crooks grew up in the 70s and 80s Southall, part of London's migrant community, and this is about a girl. I read about 70 pages. Yeah, 70 pages in. Very atmospheric, as well as Bret Easton Ellis' The Shards, but in a totally different setting. This is in London, in the Caribbean scene of London, with a lot of young people from Jamaica, and they're also, this is a comparison actually. Here it is comparable to The Shards. We have the same sort of target group. We have very young people, black people in this case, living in London, mostly from Jamaica, and a girl who falls in love, and I'll tell you more about it when I have read. I really enjoy so far Fire Rush by Jacqueline Crooks. The second book that I received from Germany this week, I ordered it in Germany. I absolutely wanted to read it when I heard about it from a friend. This is Michael Thumann, and his book is called Revanche, Wie Putin das bedrohlichste Regime der Welt geschaffen hat. So this is by a German author, journalist, Michael Thumann. He has worked as a foreign correspondent for the very well-known German newspaper Die Zeit in Moscow, Russia, for about 20 years, and he's now not allowed to enter Russia anymore. And he has written this book, which could be called Revenge or Revanche, how Putin created the most threatening regime in the whole wide world, Very interesting read by Michael Thumann. I will tell you more about this as well once I've finished it. And the last one that I started, because I'm always into audio as well, I'm listening to another audiobook, and I have it on my shelves as well, so I thought I'd start listening to it. This is a collection of short stories, finally from Japan. I read something from Japan again, and this is Life Ceremony, stories by the wonderful author Sayaka Murata, who fascinated me with her beautiful novel The Convenience Store Woman a few years ago. You might have heard about this great novel. And in these stories, in Life Ceremony, Sayaka Murata, translated from the Japanese by Gini Tapley Takemori, I listened to A First-Rate Material, A Magnificent Spread, and A Summer Night's Kiss. And the first 2 stories, I can tell you, are in a very typical Japanese way. They're also surreal. but with so much humor and with a special kind of humor that I absolutely adore in Japanese literature. First-rate material is the story of a young couple who's supposed to get married very soon, and the husband, the becoming husband, he doesn't want his wife to wear human remains, because in this time, the story is playing in a time or in a surrounding where in Japan human remains are being used to make furniture of, to make clothes of, so that when people die, their bodies are being used to create something that living people will use. So in the beginning, the girl who's going to get married wears a sweater with made of black hair, and there are wedding rings out of bones, made out of bones of people. So this is really macabre in a way, and this is so typical Japanese. I read so many other things by Joy Ogawa, by Banana Yoshimoto that go into the same kind of direction that Sayaka Murata has here, and very, very enjoyable and very funny in a way, but also really strange. So this is my reading, and I hope that you are in a very good reading mood right now. Tell me all about it in the comments down below. Subscribe to the channel and write to me. I haven't done body reads in quite a while, and I just want to do it again, but somehow I do something wrong because I don't get any body reads right now. Which might be my own fault, probably it is. Thanks very much for watching the video. Have a very nice weekend, and I see you soon. Bye!